Hey, how's it going, my friend? Dylan here. Today we will be talking about and reviewing the Canon 16-35 f4L IS USM, that is a mouthful, lens, and this is one of my favorite lenses that I've used for a lot of different things, and it's honestly one of my favorite focal lengths, and I'm excited to dive into this video. So without further ado, let's get rolling. First up for this review is that this is a very versatile focal length. You can use this lens for a lot of different things. You can use it for weddings, you can use it for landscapes, you can use it for real estate, you can use it for walking around the town. You can use this lens for a lot of different things, and I think every photographer should have this focal range in their camera bag. Point number 2 is that this lens is stabilized, and I love a stabilized lens, and that comes in handy, especially if you need to shoot at slower shutter speeds in order to achieve the right exposure, but it's also really great if you're shooting video. For all my video shooters out there, this lens is great for adding an extra layer of stabilization if you're doing any gimbal work, or if you're doing handheld, this takes out a lot of the micro jitters of your footage. I love a stabilized lens and can't recommend it enough. Let's talk about aperture real quick. Now this lens's max aperture is f4, which isn't the best, okay? I usually like to have at least 2.8 in my lenses, but I primarily use this lens for landscape photography, where I don't need that extra stop of light. I'm not shooting anything low light really. And if I am, I'm most likely using a tripod, so I don't need that extra stop of light and shooting at f2.8. But if you're a wedding photographer or someone that needs to shoot in low light situations, or maybe you just want that extra bokeh to your image, you may want to reconsider and look for a lens that's going to have that larger aperture. But be aware, you are most likely going to pay more money for that lens, especially if it's stabilized. This lens looks great at f4, but consider the line of work you do with your photography and choose the gear that has the specs that you need in order to achieve the images that you want. Let's talk about focus speed. Now this lens focuses very fast. I haven't had any issues with this lens being too slow for anything. Does it hunt from time to time in low light situations? Yes, it does. I have had that. Again, with wedding receptions, it's happened a few times. But does it happen often? No. Does it happen often enough where I don't want this lens? No, it hasn't been a big issue for me. But it is something to consider for you if you're looking to buy this lens. One thing I really like about this lens is how small and compact it is. This can fit in my camera bag and not take up a lot of space. And it's not too heavy either. I mean, yes, it's got quality glass in it. You can tell it has some weight to it, but it's not too much. And that's really great if you're doing landscape photography and you're needing to take a lot of gear on these long hikes. You don't want that to be weighing you down too much. So by having a lighter lens, this comes in handy a lot. This lens is built really well. I have no complaints at all with the build quality. Yes, this is on the cheaper end of the L series of Canon glass, but I don't think they've compromised the build quality at all. This lens is still built fantastic. It is really sturdy, really solid, a great lens to have in your camera bag. Let's dive into the sharpness of this lens, and let me say, this lens is sharp. If your subject's in focus, then your image is going to be sharp, even shooting at f4. This may be a no-brainer to some, but I want to bring it up, and that's that this lens is an EF mount lens. And I bring that up because this lens is compatible with a lot of different camera bodies. And a lot of companies make adapters so that you can adapt this lens to other camera manufacturers. I just think it's good to know if you're investing a lot into a lens that you'll be able to keep it for a while and that it's going to be wanted and have a better resale value because it fits a lot of different people's cameras. Now let's talk about the price of this lens. And I believe right now this lens is going for $1,000 brand new. And I think that's a great price considering the quality that you get out of this lens. Now again, you don't have 2.8, you don't have these wider apertures, but if you're in a field of photography where you don't need that, this is a great lens. It is sharp, it is built well, it focuses fast, it has image stabilization. There's a lot of great things going for this lens. So if you don't need 2.8 for your field of photography, this is a great lens to consider for your camera bag. I want to bring up some of the cons of this lens. And the first one I want to address is vignetting. And yes, there is some vignetting in this lens if you're shooting at 16mm or some wide apertures such as f4. It's nothing crazy, it's nothing that's going to ruin your image, but you will have to fix some of this in Photoshop or Lightroom later. Or if you want the absolute perfect, most pristine image, this lens may not be the one for you. There's also some mild distortion when you're shooting at 16mm, and that's going to go with any really wide angle lens. You're always going to get some level of distortion, but I feel like in the 2.8 version of this lens, there's a little bit less. Now, yes, you can fix some of this in Photoshop and Lightroom, just something to be aware of before buying this lens. Overall, this is an amazing quality lens. It's affordable. It's a great intro into L-series glass. And hey, it gets the job done. This lens performs when it needs to. But it may not be the lens for you if you do a lot of low light shooting. In fact, I may be selling this lens in order to get the RF 15-35 2.8 lens because I have seen that lens in action and it is phenomenal. Are you thinking about adding this lens to your camera bag? Comment below and let me know, what do you think of this lens? Will you be adding it to your arsenal, or are you considering something else now? Comment below, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see some more of my content, I got 2 videos below for you to enjoy. And if you enjoyed this one right here, please drop me a like. That really helps the channel out. And be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you get notified when new videos come out. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.